Welcome back to another episode of Timebreaker Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel.
And I'm Anthony.
And today we got a special episode. It's going to be our last episode of 2021, so we're going to do a little wrap-up talking about our top 10 films of 2021, and then we're going to branch off into our top 10 most anticipated films of 2022. It's been an interesting year of movies, to say the least. You know, I definitely think it was more fruitful than last year. You know, we're the second year into the pandemic, so that kind of had an effect on both box office and releases. Lots of stuff got delayed this year, and lots of stuff got moved around. So some of the movies that were going to come out this year, one of mine that was super looking forward to this year was Top Gun, but that never happened. So that made it to the anticipated list. But, we're going to start things off right here. We're going to go from 10 to 1. And then just talk about why these movies made our list, especially if we didn't do an episode on them. But starting off, Anthony, what's your number 10 of this year?
All right, so my number 10 for 2021 was Last Night in Soho, and a lot of people didn't see this one. This is directed by Edgar Wright, and it's got quite the cast and quite the performances, and the story was fantastic, as well as just visually this movie was just really impressive. And if you've seen Baby Driver, you kind of get a feel of how this movie is shot, and it's got the music and everything about it just kind of came together to be in my top 10. And the best thing about this movie is that I felt I knew where it was going, and then at the last second it kind of paid itself off by pulling some twists on me.
Nice. I will put out a disclaimer. Anthony and I have not seen every movie that came out in 2021. Nor have we all seen the same movie. So I personally have not seen Last Night in Soho, so I can't really comment on it. But it's great that it made your list. I like Baby Driver, so big fan of Edgar Wright. My number 10 is going to be House of Gucci. One of two Ridley Scott movies that came out this year. While it wasn't the best one of his two movies that came out this year, it still has some pacing issues. I still think it has really amazing performances from everybody from Adam Driver, Lady Gaga, Al Pacino, and even Jared Leto is completely unrecognizable in this film too. And just the story is grand, and it was something that it is a biopic, and it was a story that I wasn't aware of happening in real life. So it was cool to see that pan out, and especially the locations that they go to in France and Italy. Really, really beautiful looking movie, because Ridley Scott just knows how to make a pretty film.
Yeah, I had also actually seen this one, and the pacing issues for me were just totaled up to a bigger issue for me than it did you, and it's definitely why it missed out on my list.
Yeah, so what's your number 9?
My number 9 is James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and this movie was just fun, all the way around fun. This also had some pacing issues, and my girlfriend did not like how violent it was, even if it was pretty much done for funs. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Weasel was my favorite character, followed by King Shark.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's definitely gory just to be gory. But my number 9 is actually The Guilty with Jake Gyllenhaal. This was a Netflix movie, and it's still technically premiered in theaters. I don't know what our criteria is for movies included on this list, but it was a new release, and it did get a theatrical run, and it was really good, so I'm putting it on the list. It's just a really solid performance from Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's very contained. It's one of those movies where it's told in one location, and I'm always a big fan of that premise, and just the scenarios that go on over the phone in this film is really crazy. Lots of twists and turns from just a dialogue perspective, so that got me hooked.
Moving on to number 8, I got Raya and the Last Dragon. I went into this movie with pretty low expectations and walked out pretty impressed with what I saw. And this was actually a movie I had went to see in the theaters rather than Disney Plusing at home. And yeah, I mean, just the story was really good, and it was a pretty good film from Walt Disney this year. And I definitely liked it more than their second movie that came out this year.
Surprisingly enough, number 8 for me is also Raya and the Last Dragon. I wasn't able to see it in the theater because our local chain just didn't produce it. So I had to catch it on Disney Plus. But yeah, too, I was getting really impressed by the world building and the animation and like the story it was trying to tell. It's very like Avatar and the Last Airbender, and I'm a huge fan of that. And it's always, I try to get like find one of these animated movies that sneaks its way onto my list, and this happened to be Raya and the Last Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the year, I was pretty much laughing at this movie because it was getting a Disney Plus same day, and so I just thought Disney had like a flop on their hands, and so, pretty impressed that this movie was actually fairly decent.
Yep, solid.
Moving on to number 7, this is also a Netflix movie that also, because of Netflix's weird policy this year, got a theatrical release, and that is Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. I went and saw this one actually in theaters rather than watching on Netflix, and this movie was just all around a good, fun time, and that is why it's on my list.
Very cool. I have not seen this one, so can't comment, but my number 7 is Ridley Scott's other film, The Last Duel. Personally, this one was just, I just found this one more interesting than House of Gucci. The storytelling is very interesting as each act is told from a different character's perspective. So you're essentially watching like the same film 3 times. And it just goes to show you like how different body language and different body motions and different expressions or the way people say things can be interpreted by different people in completely different ways. And everybody gives solid performance with Adam Driver, Matt Damon, everybody. And just the practicality that was shot in France, we got these epic medieval battles, and just the setting is awesome. And like I said earlier, Ridley Scott just knows how to make an aesthetically pleasing looking film.
Yeah, this movie is definitely on my like must-see movies I want to see here in the nearby future.
Yeah, surprisingly, like everywhere is sold out for 4Ks of this movie right now, and I have no idea why. I guess people started rallying behind this film after it got released theatrically, and so I'm trying to get my hands on it as soon as I can.
Moving on to our number 6, I have No Time to Die. This movie, its opening was super impressive for me. It does a good job at wrapping up Daniel Craig's James Bond, and its ending is definitely a twist that I really just didn't expect walking in.
Yeah, totally. For me, this movie was awesome, epic. Cary Fukunaga did an amazing job stepping in to direct, and it is on my list a little higher than you, and so I'll talk about it a little bit more then. But my number 6 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, one of the best Marvel origin films that we've gotten to date, and I just love the identity this movie has. It's got a lot of like martial arts themes and Asian culture in it that just make it stand out from other Marvel movies, which was really refreshing.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to number 5, we've got Free Guy on my list. And what can I say about this movie? It was a good time, and it was just Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds for 2 hours, and who doesn't want more than that?
We love that. My number 5 is James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I, like you said, thought this was so fun. It's definitely violent for violence sake. But it was nice to have that. James Gunn is an awesome director with the 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and just seeing him come in and basically resurrect DC, like almost in general, from quality of films. Coming back from the first Suicide Squad, which I thought was an absolute trash compactor. This movie was so much fun, and we love ourselves some King Shark.
Absolutely. Moving on to number 4, we got A Quiet Place Part 2. I'm pretty sure Daniel hasn't seen this one, but I absolutely love this. All the performances are great in this. It actually did a good job having an identity of its own compared to the first one, and also just needing to take place, because honestly, A Quiet Place is very self-contained in its first movie, and there was always that fear that doing a second one or part 2, whatever you want to call it, was going to ruin it, and thankfully it didn't.
Yeah, my number 4 is No Time to Die. It was on Anthony's list earlier, but I just think it was so breathtaking. The action and the sequences and the story and where they take Daniel Craig's character. I've loved what they've done, modernizing his James Bond and just bringing another level to the character that we haven't seen before. And I thought it was just a brilliant, epic conclusion to the character and to his series of James Bond films.
Moving on to number 3, I have Ron's Gone Wrong on my list, and I know a
Oh my
lot of
god.
people have not seen this movie, but my goodness, I was laughing so loud during this movie. Like, this movie was just absolutely fun. It hit all the emotional keys. It was hilarious. It is a good time, and if you like have any sort of interest in technology, like this movie is probably just gonna blow your mind because it is such a thrilling ride.
Like, because of how enthusiastic you are, I actually added this to my Disney Plus list, and I might give it a shot here in a couple days.
It's totally worth it.
But my number 3 is Denis Villeneuve's epic Dune. I was so anticipated for this movie. I saw it IMAX, was completely blown away by the world building. It reminded me a lot of like Avatar, and just the how transportive of an experience this is, from the music to Hans Zimmer to the performances to the effects and like the production design. It's just a complete odyssey of sci-fi, and one of the best that we've gotten in a long time, and I cannot wait for Dune Part 2.
Quick disclaimer here, but Dune was actually my number 11. It just literally didn't make the list on this.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more about like us geeking about Dune, we got an episode about that, so you can go check that out. Maybe you can be the 50th viewer on it and save it from being stuck at 49 views.
Anyway, moving on to number 2, I have, and yes, this is the only movie on my list that did not get a theatrical release, but absolutely deserved to have one. Zack Snyder's Justice League, and boy, did this 4.5-hour epic retelling of Justice League. We don't talk about that movie, and yeah, I mean, what can I say? I really like the vision Zack Snyder had already presented in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. So for me, this was like coming home and just getting a nice wrapped gift. Pretty much completing the storyline he had set out to start. And yes, it does leave some plot threads for a hopeful future installment that we probably won't see. But I absolutely love this movie, and I would absolutely recommend this movie to anyone that likes any sort of superhero movie.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten on the Zack Snyder Justice League train. Maybe in a bit, maybe. But my number 2 is, it was on your list earlier, but mine's Free Guy. I don't know why, but I just, coming from a nerd's perspective, Free Guy is just an awesome movie. From getting every reference, from seeing like the Halo Scorpion tank on screen, and just seeing Ryan Reynolds do his thing, and on a narrative level too, it actually like really blew me away, from just seeing this guy like live in the status quo and like break free and find his own path. Like, that's classic hero's journey, and I just loved it, how modern of a tale it was, with AI and video games. It was super refreshing and a great time at the movies.
Yeah, and that cameo appearance halfway through, or more towards
It's like
the
in the
end.
last battle.
Yeah, that cameo appearance. Solid.
There's like so many, actually, like from just like celebrities top to bottom.
Right. And then moving on to actually both of our number ones is Spider-Man No Way Home. And honestly, we just talked about it for an hour and 14 minutes, so I'm not even going to say anything about it. If you want to hear more about how much we love this movie, go and watch that podcast.
Yeah, it was definitely just an awesome Spider-Man movie. And not just an MCU movie, but it really is a Spider-Man movie. And Tom Holland really comes into the character and celebrates like all generations of Spider-Man movies. So if you've been invested in the character, you're going to love it as much as we did. And that's why it is our number 1 film of 2021. But before we go, we got to talk about 2022. We got lots of movies coming out, lots of movies that were supposed to come out this year that got moved into 2022. So let's talk about what we're excited for in 2022, starting up with your number 10.
My number 10 for next year, and this has grown on me, Lightyear. All right, don't get me wrong, it's a little weird, but I'm interested in where they're taking this, and I'm interested in what the story's going to be for this.
Kind of I think I need another trailer. Like, it's still like really early and we don't like know what it's about. But I mean, Pixar for the most part has made great stuff. It's kind of weird for me saying that because I haven't seen like the last 4 Pixar movies or whatever. But they tend to make great stuff. And if this is anywhere linked to Toy Story's greatness, it's going to be awesome. But my number 10 is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And I guess kind of like you with Lightyear, I'm just intrigued to see what they do with the story. Sadly, without Chadwick Boseman, it's going to be very like interesting to see where they take the character, or if anybody takes up the mantle, or just literally it's the ball's in Ryan Coogler's court. Like he could do anything with this, and I'm going to be interested to see what he does with it.
Yep, and there's my number 9 summed up because mine is also Black Panther: Wakanda Forever for my number 9 slot for the same reasons.
Yeah, that's fair. My number 9 is going to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, because that's a thing. It's just picking up from how awesome Spider-Verse 1 was. It's one of my top 3 Spider-Man movies of all time. It would be interesting to see where they take the story. I think we're getting like an official trailer pretty soon for this film, and the little tease they gave us, it's like the art style's different. I hope they don't stick with that. I actually really liked the art style of the first one. It grew on me, and seeing this new art style, I was kind of bummed out.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a bit because it's actually on my list later up the line. My number 8, though, Top Gun Maverick. Don't get me wrong, I'm super excited to see this, especially in IMAX, because every time I saw the trailer in IMAX, like, the sound just absolutely blows me away. But I have been so oversaturated with trailers for this that it sits so far on my list. I also didn't grow up with Top Gun. It's a movie that Daniel had me watch, when I was in my teens. And so there's not this attachment to the franchise. So for me, like, I'm excited for it, but it's just not up there in my, like, really anticipated.
Okay. My number 8 is kind of a long shot. We don't know a lot about it, but, if we know anything about behind the scenes and with cast and with production, I'm going to go with Babylon. Not a lot has been known about it, but, Damien Chazelle coming off of La La Land, same cinematographer, bringing on Brad Pitt. Tobey Maguire is supposed to be in this movie, too. I like me some Tobey Maguire, so it's set in, like, old Hollywood-timed era, which I think is right up Damien Chazelle's alley, so, it's not one of those. As I get older, I'm not as excited for movies by the stars. I'm more excited by the people behind the camera, and Damien Chazelle is a great director from La La Land to Whiplash, and First Man's okay, so I'm excited for Babylon.
All right, I was super excited. Then you mentioned First Man, and I got a little scared because First Man was pretty bad.
I had to do the reality check there, yeah.
But La La Land was good, and since you said it, now I'm actually kind of excited for this movie. So maybe that's my number 11 now. Anyway, moving on to number 7. I know Daniel's going to have this later on his list, but for me, yeah, I am not an Avatar lover, and so this movie is sitting down at number 7 for Avatar 2, because simply, alright, James Cameron has invested over 10 years into this movie, okay? It's got to at least be on my anticipation list, only because I'm interested in if it is absolutely garbage or not, and so,
it can't be.
And I'm also excited because regardless of if I love James Cameron or not, he always does try and do stuff to innovate the technological field in film, and so I'm interested to see what his underwater motion capture has pretty much done to pretty much jumpstart a whole new way of filming movies, and so that is why it sits on my number 7.
That's fair, and I will be gushing about it later. But my number 7 is The Batman. Matt Reeves, awesome director. Cloverfield, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, minus what Anthony's going to say. Really awesome director. And, the trailers for this movie have been awesome. It's to me, it's really, really, really trying to be the next Dark Knight, and we will see if it can be.
This is also later on my list, so I'm going to leave it for there. I love how you mentioned war and my response, and
hey,
I just
know, man. I just know.
All right, moving on to my number 6. Not a lot is known about this, and that's fine. Number 6 is Thor: Love and Thunder. This is on there because the Guardians are going to be in it. I love the Guardians, so I'm excited for that. I really liked what they did with Ragnarok, so I'm excited for this one. Number 6.
That's on my list later, so I'll talk about it in a second. But my number 6 is Jurassic World Dominion. Out of the 2 Jurassic World movies, I do like the first one better, which was directed by Colin Trevorrow, which this one is going to be directed by Colin Trevorrow. I saw the prologue that they uploaded, and honestly, I could watch like a BBC nature documentary of just dinosaurs with that. It looked like live action Lion King. Like, that's how good the dinosaurs look. And just the fact that they're bringing back Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum as the original members of the cast alongside Chris Pratt and everybody. I think it's going to be, in a way like Spider-Man No Way Home, kind of like a celebration of everything that Jurassic Park has been, and that's why I'm really excited for this movie.
Yeah, I actually saw the prologue in IMAX, and I saw this probably 6 months ago. But yeah, I was actually pretty impressed with what I saw, and this was my number 11 to start with, and it just didn't make the list. But like, I'm actually pretty excited for this. I wasn't a very vocal fan of Trevorrow, but I'm kind of starting to shift my thinking after the terrible Jurassic
Duel of
World
the
2
Fates? Oh,
and a Duel of the Fates has been shown off. And so, I'm interested to see what they do. And yeah.
cool.
Moving on to number 5. I'm interested in this one because, my goodness, this film probably has the biggest COVID production story of all time, and that is Mission Impossible 7. I'm also interested to see what Haley Atwell's character is going to be in this, and I also just really like this franchise, so I'm excited to see the next one.
Yep, that one again is higher on my list, but I can finally talk about Thor: Love and Thunder now because that's my number 5. Yeah, love what Taika Waititi has done coming into the Thor franchise and just giving it new life. Like you said, I'm excited to see what he does with the Guardians in this. Christian Bale's attached to the project too. We're seeing Natalie Portman back. Chris Hemsworth looks absolutely jacked for this movie. And can't wait to see how Korg fits in the picture too, man.
Korg, best character. Moving on to number 4, I have The Flash. And okay, so I am a pretty big Flash fan. Like, I really like what Grant Gustin did with the character. After seeing Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'm kind of intrigued with what he can do. I'm also super excited because we have Ben Affleck and we have Michael Keaton as Batman in this. And we also, I believe, have Supergirl showing up, the Supergirl for the DCU. So, like, all around, this movie is just becoming a very big movie. And so I'm just super excited to see how everything fits together and what this does for DC as a whole.
I'm kind of more on the fence with Flash myself. It's not on my list, and I haven't seen the Zack Snyder's Justice League, so I'm not as intrigued with the character. But the other references seem cool how they're tackling like the Flashpoint multiverse stuff. But my number 4 is going to be Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Speaking of multiverse, what we saw from No Way Home, and then the teaser just dropped. It's just the next chapter in the Marvel storybook, so I gotta see what's going on there. I've heard they're introducing some cool cameos, so maybe we'll have some fun treats in that as well.
And continuing on from that, because this is my number 3, is Doctor Strange as well. I just really liked the first one. I'm really interested to see if it's going to have that same visual style that the first one had that really just blew me away, because we are swapping directors for this. So I'm definitely intrigued to see that. I'm intrigued to see what the story unfolds. And yeah, I mean, it's coming up quick, and I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, I totally forgot. Yeah, speaking of the director change, Sam Raimi's finally coming back to do a superhero movie again, so that's awesome. My number 3 is Top Gun Maverick. I absolutely love Tom Cruise movies. I love how practical he brings the action and the effects to the screen. They're flying real planes. They made the actors learn how to fly real planes. Miles Teller is also a great actor, and it's just going to be awesome to see what they bring to the table. And they showed like 15 minutes or whatever at like CinemaCon or something like almost 2 years ago. And people were absolutely blown away by that. So it's going to be awesome to finally see what this movie has in store for us.
Yeah, I'm, again, really excited for it. It's just, I feel it's just been over-marketed at this rate.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the next poster come out with a new date.
Moving on to number 2. We have the Batman on my list, and yes, I am not a War for the Planet of the Apes lover, only because the last 10 minutes insults the complete rest of the movie. But outside of that, I really like what Matt Reeves did with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and what the beginning through the middle through the beginning of the end for War of the Planet of the Apes did. I don't agree with his decision on how he ended the movie. But on top of that, I was impressed with Robert Pattinson's performance in Tenet, and so overall, just as a combined, I am super hyped for the Batman, and I'm interested to see what his take does, and I really like Matt Reeves as a director, so I figure the Batman's going to be great because of him as well.
Yep, that's solid. My number 2 is also another Tom Cruise. It's Mission Impossible 7, like you talked about earlier. Just the The action set pieces that this series has brought to us, that are practical and just amazing spectacles to see. It's just I've come to equate quality cinema with Mission Impossible at this point. And just seeing those pictures of that stunt that they're performing where he like motorcycles off of a mountain, I'm just like, yep, that's Tom Cruise. Sign me up.
He's gonna die during production on one of these. It's gonna be really sad.
That's just how Mission 8 is gonna end. It's just he dies.
Right. All right, we're going to reverse roles here because I'm interested at this rate. What is your number one?
How do you not know what my number one is? It's James Cameron's Avatar 2. Duh.
Okay.
This man
right.
revolutionized cinema. He has been doubted every time. They were doubters for Titanic, which I still haven't seen, but they were doubters for Avatar. That blew people away. Is the highest grossing movie of all time, by the way. Defended its title against Avengers Endgame. Thank you very much. And the stuff, he's taken like 12 years to make this movie or whatever. So yes, the underwater motion capture is going to be revolutionary, and just, it's going to be another transportive experience. He's talked about in recent interviews how like Pandora is not just, it's like Earth. It's not just one thing. So it's not just going to be forest. We're going to see oceans. We're going to be seeing mountains. We're going to be seeing snow, desert, everything. And it's just going to be so cool to be transported to that world again and seeing it built upon it. Some people say that Avatar 1 has like some story shortcomings. So you got to think, he's also had like 13 years to like plan out the next 4 movies. So I would assume the story's got something rich going on with there too.
Man, with your enthusiasm about it, the movie can't be bad.
Obviously.
Don't doubt James Cameron. We will be referencing this video if it is an absolute monster, just disaster.
All I'm saying is that it's not good to bet against James Cameron.
I will bet against the fact I don't think it will dethrone Avatar 1 box office wise because...
Oh, no, it will not, obviously.
Yeah. Like, that's a whole nother feat of its own, but I do think it'll make money, and I think it will probably be at least good if it's not great.
Yeah. And at the very least, it'll be like visually like stunning. I
expect it to probably be one of the best movies I've ever laid my eyes on.
And that's almost enough for me,
My number one is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. It is because I love Into the Spider-Verse. Like, it is hands down one of my favorite movies of all time. And so to be getting a sequel to that and getting to have more Miles Morales, as well as it looks like we'll be getting Peter B. Parker back and everyone that made it so great. And then also the fact that this is a part 1, like they conceived a story that they think they have to split into 2 movies on the second outing. I mean, again, I'm just super hyped to see what they did. And, I'm afraid it's going to suck, but at the same time, I'm afraid it's going to be better than the first. So it's like, there's both emotions in it.
Yeah, the bar is set pretty high because of how acclaimed the first one is. Won the Oscar for Best Animated Film. I definitely think it's going to be like it's going to make more at the box office than the first one, but like critically and how well it's received, I'm just afraid that the hype is like too high and people are just like expecting the next Messiah when it's not gonna happen. just saying.
Oh man, yeah, I get overhyped sometimes about some movie, but hey, I was overhyped for Justice League, and I mean, it was pretty good. It was really good.
That's fair. I was also very hyped for No Way Home, and that was also really awesome.
And I was too, and it was really good. And Avengers Endgame really hyped. It was really good. So I mean, like. But then we have some disappointments like The Last Jedi, like...
Yeah, and Black Widow. I don't hate Scarlett Johansson. Disclaimer. I just hate bad movies. And Black Widow is a bad movie.
Black Widow's not... Okay, it's not bad, but it's not great.
It's like not...
It's in that like C-tier Marvel movie.
Yeah, Marvel movie tier, yeah.
Like, it doesn't do anything for the story, and it's pretty forgettable.
And it just came out way too late for when it needed to.
It has the same problem that Top Gun Maverick had, is that it sat and kept getting delayed. And then when it came out, it wasn't that good.
Yeah, but we don't already know what happens after Top Gun Maverick. That's my point.
Top Gun 3, unless Tom Cruise dies, and Top Gun Maverick's dead, and it's just his funeral.
No, it can't happen because they already shot it. So he'll survive Top Gun Maverick, maybe.
They could throw it in at the end.
Shit, that's fair. But that's our top 10 list. We want to know what your top 10 movies of 2021 were and your most anticipated 2022 were. Let us know in the comment section below, but that's going to do it. But before we go, Anthony, can you explain that we're taking a little break?
So we are going to take about a month, actually a little over a month. We're going to take a break from podcasting. We've been doing this nonstop so we started filming these a little before we started airing them. So we've been doing this from about mid-August, and then we took our first break back over Thanksgiving, and we kind of realized that we've been pretty much like every week just been on a grind to get these done, just because I have school or we both have work. And so we're going to take another nice little break here, and we're going to return the first week of February, and it's going to be to a whole new schedule. We will not be doing this every week from here on out. We're going to be doing it 3 times a month, at least through February until May, just to kind of pull a little pressure off of us to get one out every single week.
Yeah, it is just a little exhausting, because we have to record and then I have to edit the whole thing and listen it back to make sure everything's good. So just taking a little break, especially for the holidays too. You guys are having fun on break. You don't have to be listening to our podcast. Although if you did want to listen to any more of the ones we talked about, those are back there. You can listen to those. Shameless plug. But we'll see you guys in February. Our first episode, if I believe I'm correct, is going to be for Morbius, right?
Yeah, and that's going to be, I believe, on Wednesday, February 2nd or something. So be on the lookout for that in February.
So instead of seeing you next week, we will see you in February.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Timebreaker Podcast.
If you did enjoy it, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe, and make sure to ring that notification bell for new episodes every Wednesday.
See you next week.